Okay, hello everyone. I'm going to call tonight's meeting of the Weathersfield Planning and Zoning Commission to order. First item is to take the role of commissioners. Joseph Hammer here, Peter Lambruni.
Here.
Okay. Anthony Homicki not here tonight. Christopher Brecklin.
Here.
Tom Dean.
Here.
David Drake.
Here.
Dave Edwards.
Here.
Jim Hughes. Tracy Jean Frito.
Here.
Joe Ercolani.
Here.
Anna Laurie.
Here.
Paul Thompson.
Here.
So it looks like Commissioner Homicki is the only person who is not here tonight. I think it's the first item, public hearing. Before I get to that, why don't I just quickly go through the ground rules for the hearings before I forget, because we will have we have one hearing tonight.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before we do that, we did have a request, and I agree that I think we should deviate from the regular agenda and add an item to the agenda under new business before we get to the rest of the
Could
agenda.
you just explain what that item is?
So I want to make sure I had suggested, the town engineers in the audience, there's a project that's been funded there, well on the way, and they're hoping to have approved, and if I misspeak, the town engineer can correct me, but we're hoping that if possible, we can go out to bid this summer, even late spring with the construction. So it is a project to connect what is the Putnam Bridge, where there's currently the Great Meadows, the Heritage Way Trail from the Putnam Bridge to Main Street in Old Weathersfield, which is phase one, and there's another 2 phases as well. But the project has already been presented to Historic District Commission, and there have been some back and forth with the HDC. It's also been presented to the Inland Wetlands Commission, and I believe the proposal is to present it to the town council later this month. And so because the Planning and Zoning Commission hasn't seen it yet and they're actively taking feedback from those commissions, I wanted to have it on the agenda so that the commission could at least hear the presentation before they get too far in the design. And then based on the discussion, we can decide if we think it merits an 8-24. But the real intention for tonight is just to have the commission, give the commission the ability to hear the project and ask some questions and get a better understanding about it. But it isn't on the agenda. I did talk to the town council, town attorney, and they did say we could add the agenda item and suggested that we do it at the beginning of the meeting, which is what I'm suggesting we do right now. So it would be a motion to deviate from the regularly from the agenda, from the regular meeting agenda, and add an item under new business.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Add it.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
And just so everybody knows, it requires a 2/3 vote, and my suggestion is, because it does not involve a public hearing, that we put it under other business, and which is the one where you said the applicant can't be here until 7:30. Is that item?
5:30 Silas Dean, which is the last public hearing.
Okay, so we'll
No, I'm sorry, it's 4-1. So
4.1. So why don't we? It'll be either after or before that, depending on whether the applicant has arrived. But there's and again, just to be clear, it's not there is no zoning application before us. It's informational and potentially an 8-24 referral regarding use of town property.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that is now on the agenda. In terms of the public hearings, the ground rules and procedures for the public hearings are that the applicant comes up to the podium over there, states their name and address for the record, presents their application, commission members have a chance to ask questions, and then the public will have a chance to make comments or ask questions through the commission. The applicant will have a chance at the end for the closing comments. Once we close a public hearing, we cannot hear anything further from the applicant or the public, so please keep that in mind. With that said, public hearing item 3.1, application 2205-25, Matthew Hawk seeking special permit for a garage over 200 square feet at 50 Knott Street. Mr. Elder, our town planner, tells me that he and the zoning enforcement officer are taking a closer look at that to confirm that a special permit application may not be necessary on that item. And my understanding is it has to do with whether this is the sole garage or a second garage. But where we are with that, and if the applicant is okay with this, my suggestion is we continue that item to our next meeting, since you've already gone through all the notice and we've gone through all the notice procedures. That will give our town staff time to be 100% on whether they believe this application is not necessary. That'll get presented to us before the next meeting. And if the decision is you don't need the application, you can just withdraw the application and move ahead. And if that's not the decision, and the decision is that you still need it, you can come back at our next meeting on May 20th, and we would hear it then. Okay, does that work for you? So I'm going to suggest on this one that we basically make a motion to really continue the hearing until our May 20th meeting, if somebody's like to make a motion.
Motion to continue.
I'll second.
Okay, and just to be clear on the record, our next meeting, if anybody's either here or listening on the TV, our next meeting is Tuesday, May 20th, here at Town Council Chambers at Town Hall, beginning at 7 p.m. So that's when this is being continued to.
Let me just ask a question. Is there a concern that they may have to come, or?
No, it's, in your packet, you see the certificate of appropriateness from the Historic District Commission. But when I looked at one of the questions I had when looking at the application and the specifications of the structures, it appears to be a garage, but the application says shed accessory structure, which is a common description we use on the intake in the office. And so when I looked at the minutes of the HDC to determine if it was a shed or if it was a garage, many people don't think of the difference, but we do differentiate, and this is in fact a garage. And you are entitled to have one detached garage under 850 square feet, provided it's at least 5 feet from the side lines in this property and it's not 18 feet high. The application appears to meet all those requirements. I did talk to the zoning official, so it was our opinion that this is, unless there's something that we don't see in the application, that this is permitted by right and does not need a special permit, because speaking with the applicant, this would be the only garage on the property, and otherwise it meets all the requirements as a permitted use by right. So they would just be applying for a building.
So in the next meeting, you're going to make sure that that's correct. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I'd be comfortable doing it tonight, and I was saying we could just remove it from the agenda and withdraw, but I think because they've already sent the mailings, if there's some reason that they need to, for some reason, which I don't see, they would have to repost and send the notices. So, by the end of the day tomorrow, we'll have a definitive answer.
We're just being cautious here, just so we don't cycle them, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's fine.
Right, and I think it gives staff a chance to just make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. If they have questions, they can ask them to confirm their interpretation.
Makes
And
sense.
this doesn't hold them up. If tomorrow morning you determine that they don't need to come back, they can just do
And
their
I
thing
think they could
and
go to
withdraw the
a building
application.
permit probably, right?
That's right, and because they're going to have to get building plans, and the permit process will take a little bit either, so they could continue on with that process. My thought in terms of closing the communication loop is that I will send an email, or Charles, the zoning enforcement officer, will send an email to everyone on the commission just with our findings, so that you can all have a sort of some closure and say, based on our review, this meets the requirements of a permitted structure, and therefore, no public hearing is necessary.
That'll move them along. Okay,
Yes,
good.
yeah.
Point of clarification, if I may ask. This is application number 2205-25Z, 50 Knott Street. This is the application that's under discussion?
Yes.
Just to clarify that. And my understanding from what's been indicated is that because the proposed structure is under 800 square feet and is going to be utilized by the applicant as a garage, the 800 square foot requirement is the maximum size that would be allowed for the garage. And since this is under that maximum size, then they can proceed as a matter of right to construct a garage. The concern that you have indicated is because the historic, let's see, it's the Historic District Commission had indicated this is a shed, that's where the confusion lies?
Almost, very close. So it's 850 square feet or less for a garage, so it meets that requirement. But the first document, I had two documents. The application that came into the office and through the office said for a shed/accessory structure, which over 200 square feet, which would require a public hearing. But it turns out the applicant is actually applying to replace a garage, and you are allowed to have one detached garage on every single family lot property under 850 square feet, and it appears that what the applicant is doing meets that, and therefore it's permitted by right or with a zoning permit.
So continuing this while you basically make that determination, in fact, you're assuming then that the application will be withdrawn if what is, and that the procedure you're undergoing is essentially to correct a clerical error.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
And I would like the if the conclusion of both Mr. Elder and the zoning enforcement officer is it's not needed, I would like to see something in writing for this commission to be able to have. Yes.
Right, you need to make sure that the documentation is there to
Yes.
support whatever decision is taken.
For art's sake, I just want to be sure, we didn't actually open the public hearing, so
Correct.
it's not technically a continuation of the public hearing.
It's really a
because there's deadlines and things, so I
postponement
just
or a
want to be,
deferral.
I
Yeah,
think
we
it's
have
important to be
60
clear.
We have 65 days to open the hearing from receipt. Technically, receipt is tonight, but when was this submitted? 2 weeks ago, roughly?
It was received
March 31st?
March 31st, so it would have been
April, May
the first meeting after March 31st.
Okay.
So
even if it
the
was
motion is actually to remove this item from the agenda,
it's
from
really,
tonight's agenda.
it's really not, it's just to pass
The
and
table, I
not to
would say
open
the
the
table.
hearing. Right.
To postpone the hearing.
And I think 65 days, even if it went from March 31st, would be the first week in June anyway. Right?
Well, what was our
May
first meeting?
31st would be 60 days.
Yes.
But it would have been received at our first meeting in April. And it would,
I'll look at April. Yeah, we're within, I'm not worried about the time frame,
Okay,
but if we want to
okay.
have it on
I
the
just want to
record.
make sure we didn't have to close it again or something like that, because it wasn't officially opened.
Right, we have not opened
We
it.
voted on continuing. Do we have to modify that since we're not opening it?
I think we are postponing the opening. We're not opening the hearing tonight. We're postponing it, rescheduling it to our May 20th meeting.
Okay.
So second, is that okay to have made the motion and the second?
Yep.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay. So Mr. Elder will be in touch with you and solve this. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Public hearing 2206-25Z Coffee Fix CT LLC, seeking special permit for a liquor permit from the state of Connecticut at 945 Silestein Highway. Is the applicant here? Okay, if you would please come up and give your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Denise Sakami. I am the co-owner of Coffee Fix, located at 943 Silestein Highway in Weathersfield. The coffee shop itself is at unit 945, but the plaza itself is at 943.
Okay, and then please
Yeah.
go ahead and tell us what it is that you're looking to do.
So I'm extremely excited to introduce Coffee Fix to the town of Weathersfield, which is my hometown. My husband and I have decided to open a coffee shop, but not just a coffee shop. It's going to be focused around high-quality specialty coffee, offering baked goods, desserts, some food options as well, and to create a space for everyone to come in and really get an opportunity to enjoy some really good coffee. With that said, we really wanted to get the opportunity to add some very simplified cocktails to our menu, especially because we are focused on specialty coffee and we will have a very good espresso. We thought maybe adding some cocktail options like espresso martinis or maybe some mimosas to go along with our food options in the menu. So today I'm seeking for a cafe restaurant liquor permit.
Right, so a cafe restaurant permit that I'm sure allows beer and wine, does it also allow hard liquor to be served, you know?
Yes, yeah. While we will not be possibly offering all of that together, it seems that it does allow liquor, other options for liquor as well.
And you have a floor plan, I see, in your application. How many seats total inside? 8?
So overall, we were able to present a floor plan to the town and the health department for about 20 seats altogether.
Okay. And there's no actual bar for people just to sit at to drink alcohol, is that correct?
There is no actual bar for people to sit down and drink alcohol. It's just very simplified small tables where they can eat
Yeah.
and maybe enjoy their coffee and a cocktail.
And is there table service, or do people go up and get their coffee or whatever?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. People have the option to go ahead and grab their coffee that will be made, including we will have baristas, come out and bring, any desserts or specialties that they have ordered.
And what are your proposed hours of operation and days of the week?
Yeah, my husband and I were thinking of, especially the beginning, just so we can have a better understanding, when will be the best time for us to stay open depending on foot traffic. We wanted to start around 7:30, 8 a.m. for breakfast options and continue to stay open until 9 p.m.
Mr. Chairman, this is a permitted use that they're doing, correct? And what they're really just asking for is the liquor permit application for us, correct? So
Correct.
this is really what we're focused on.
Correct, but
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking about the hours.
Yeah, okay.
Because of the liquor aspect.
I just have one other question, then Tom. Have you gone to the state? Have they given you the okay, the state of Connecticut?
No, I have connected with the health department, which guided me to start with my town
This
first.
commission first, okay.
Correct.
So you still have to go to the state
Correct.
after this?
Yep.
And what kind of permit do you intend on getting from the state?
To be honest, I'm still doing my research, but from my understanding, it was just a cafe or restaurant liquor permit for me to be able to serve alcohol.
Yeah, my question was kind of follow-up to Peter's. My understanding is that this is an application that has to be determined by this commission before the applicant can submit its application to the state. And as I reviewed the materials before the meeting, my understanding is that there's some need for documentation or clarification of precisely what kind of liquor permit would be obtained from the state, and that there's a need for the applicant to, at the appropriate time, to submit such documentation to the town in order to accomplish their project. Is that?
It is, and I did speak with the applicant today because I said that would be the most important question the commission asks is what exact type of liquor permit are you applying for? And I believe that based on the research they've done, it's going to be a restaurant cafe permit. There is a difference. I looked between there's a cafe bar permit and then there's a restaurant permit. And so I suggested, that it will be one of those two, but I didn't want to be the one to tell the applicant what they were applying for. But yes, assuming the commission approves one or either of those types of liquor license, they will come back in with a form from the Department of Consumer Protection, and it will indicate that it's either a cafe bar license or a restaurant license, and we would sign that form.
So as I understand it, what you'd be asking, what the staff is recommending the commission to do is to attach a condition to the acceptance or the approval of the application that prior to opening their establishment for this service, that they will furnish to the town, to the applicable officials of the town, the precise language that has been approved by the state permit. That's basically what you're looking from them to provide after the commission decides, but before they open this service for business.
Correct.
I think we definitely want to have that confirmation after, Tom, but I also think it's important that we understand tonight exactly what it is. And I guess along those lines, what type of food would be served? Will there be hot food? Will it be prepared on site or off site?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So there will be hot food. We will have baked good options, sandwiches, mostly on the sweet side, lots of dessert options as well, but mostly baked goods, which will include sandwiches for people to be able to eat as well as waffles and crepes, which we agree that will go well with some very simplified cocktails.
Okay, and you referenced earlier the permit category that you thought you would fall under. I think you said restaurant, cafe.
So from my research, I saw the cafe restaurant liquor permit.
Restaurant permit, and my understanding is I think a restaurant permit really functions in conjunction with the service of food as contrasted to a bar permit where there may not be any food served. Not 100% sure on that, but I think that's the case.
I suspect that I know the area, and I don't think that they're seating for 20 patrons, which is what you need to have a restaurant. So I believe that the applicant's going to end up applying for a cafe bar restaurant, which allows for beer, wine, cider, and spirits. But again, I don't want to speak for the applicant, but I believe that's the
That sounds about right.
That's the permit they'll be getting.
Just
Go ahead, Paul.
Sure. My question was just the kind of the 10 versus 20 question, actually. So the document attached that was received by the health district shows 10 seats, the site plan or the floor plan, and then the other one that's in here shows 20.
Yeah, so we have updated it, and I believe we have sent that over to the health department. So maybe this is the older version when we first started the project, but I can always revisit that as well. We didn't believe that it would be able to fit that many seats, but surprisingly it turned out to be a good project.
Thank you.
A couple of quick operational questions. Catering and takeout. Are you going to do one and or both, or is it only in restaurant for now?
Are you speaking as of the food or alcohol?
Just let's start with the food, but just the general concept.
I do want to add a takeout, and I have been looking into catering options as well.
Okay.
Okay, any questions?
So if I'm understanding what you're proposing is something like Max Bibo then?
Absolutely, similar.
It's not just a coffee bar. It's more of a cafe, right? With food, liquor, beer and wine, right? And even takeout, I guess. Okay.
Correct.
It's kind of like a smaller Max Bibo. It's kind of what I'm
Correct.
envisioning, right?
Without the full bar seating area, but yes, absolutely, similar aspect.
Okay.
But again, maybe what distinction is that you're just going to have table seating and you're not proposing a bar at your establishment.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions, commission members?
No.
Anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this application? Anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this application? Last chance, anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this? All right. Are there any staff additional comments or at this point?
I would just say that this is something that I've encountered, and that you all probably see this a lot, but they call these, in Weathersfield, these are called tenant fit-outs, where you have an existing property or an office that turns over. And so when I first met the applicant, they were coming in for a sign permit. And so I was sort of trying to wrap my head around what happens with commercial properties when one tenant leaves and one goes. And this is one of the first examples I had where a tenant comes in, they're reusing the existing sign. So they get a sign refacing which is a permitted and exempt sort of sign. And they were reusing the interior for the same use or a similar use that does not trigger new parking. And so all of that can be done through a building permit. And, the only reason it came to the commission was for the alcohol sales special permit. But I wanted to bring that to your attention because now that I'm getting more familiar with how things work, this happens a lot. So, this is how, tenants sort of change over and you may never see them unless you see a sign. But this is a good example of what we call a tenant fit out of an existing space.
And our regulations for a liquor permit, special permit, were to give consideration to whether, how close are residences, schools, other liquor establishments, correct?
Correct. And there is a list. I know originally the applicant provided a list from an example that I had given them, but they did provide an updated list, and I was just looking for it.
These 4 items here, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, that one, Peter, is the old one, which is incorrect because those establishments are more than
No, I think-
300 feet.
I think that's the updated one.
The right one should be the
It says
April
liquor
7th.
license within 300.
Well,
Yeah.
any liquor license. So
This is the areas that are close to this that have also a liquor license. That's
Right.
what this is, right?
Except some of those areas like Sora My Way is way more than 300.
If I can add to that, you're absolutely right. I had a difficult time trying to find the specific 300 feet, the closest by. So I did do a little bit of research, drove around myself and try to get the right places. But you're right, there is a few of them that are a little bit farther than the 300 feet.
Does the pizza, Weathersfield Pizza, which is right next
Correct.
door to your space, do they have any kind of liquor permit?
They
then?
do not, no.
Okay. All right. Any other questions by the commission? Paul?
Just one anticipation question. Are you contemplating having outdoor seating or anything, tables up front?
I'm sorry, say that one?
Any outside seating planned up front on the sidewalk area?
I would love to, but I think it's just probably a project for later on to revisit. But as of right now, we're just trying to wrap it up and get the doors open to the community, and anything further probably for in the future.
Do they need to come back if they want to do something like that? I'm just trying to make it easier, I think.
it's a good question, and I actually did talk to the applicant originally. When I saw the application came in, I said, are you doing outside seating? And their hope is to have outdoor seating. And then when the information came in, I realized that it's going to be more than, it could happen, but they have a narrow walkway along all 4 of the storefronts, and they would need to maintain ADA access. And there was cars that pulled right up, and they were going to be talking about bollards. And so I said the applicant could do it, but it would possibly delay the permit that's so. Yes, I think in the future they might, but it's going to require some more engineering and parking layout than what was available at the time of the application.
Got it, thanks.
Yes, Joe.
Yeah, Dave, I got a question. The parking, because there's almost like 2 plazas there, and they've been melded into each other. I just didn't know where theirs ended and the other one began.
So it's a good question, and I wasn't sure. And goes back to the parking. I looked in all of the files that I could find for a site plan that showed the existing conditions, and I didn't find anything later than I think 1968, which only showed the original building. And it very well could be that I didn't look in the right place, but I looked in all of the files that I'm aware of, and we don't keep records for longer than 15 years. So if there hasn't been something in that plaza for 15 years, there's a chance that we don't have a copy. And so that's what I was looking for. I was hoping to be able to give the applicant an updated site plan that they could use for outside seating, but I was not successful in finding that. And so I can't answer your question. I'm not exactly sure how it evolved to be what it is today.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any final questions, commission members? Does the applicant have anything further you'd like to say before we move to close the hearing?
Well, yes, just wanted to add that I'm new to the industry, not new to Weathersfield. This is my hometown, and it has been a wonderful experience working with everyone here, and I really appreciate the support, especially Dave, all the guidance, and just putting me in the right direction. It really means a lot to us for a startup business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Would someone like to move to close the hearing?
Motion to close.
Jim, motion. Peter, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the hearing is closed. And you can have your seat back if you'd like. And I guess before we vote, we ought to just figure out who's voting here. We need one alternate, I believe. to
Yes, we do. And
participate.
it can be anyone since this is the first night of the hearing, so.
And I don't know who. I
don't think Anna-
Better job. Anna, maybe, have you not participated in a while? Maybe, okay, so Anna will be seated on this. Would someone like to make a motion on the application?
I'll make a motion to approve application 2206-25-Z, Coffee Fix. Anyone?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Peter seconded. All right, any comments, suggestions?
Do we have to be at all specific, Jim, on what type of application, cafe, or is that important, Dave? Restaurant? Is specifying the type that we'd like to see in the motion, is that an important thing to do or not?
I think the only suggestion I would have is that we acknowledge that it's not going to be a package store.
Okay,
Or we could say it affirmatively that it's either going to be there's two types. It's either going to be a cafe/bar or it's going to be a restaurant. I think it's going to be a cafe/bar based on what we heard.
But keep in mind that even though the word bar is used in that permit title, I believe food has to be available, and the applicant has also indicated they're not going to have a freestanding bar. It's going to be consumed at the tables. That was part of the application. So
I guess my only question is, should we specify something or not? Should we say it could be either or just leave it open?
I think we should do either or.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Jim?
Fine.
All right.
and then I guess the only thing is you want to see, well, you're going to have to sign the
Correct, yeah,
application
we'll
form, so
see.
you're going to see what they're
Correct.
submitting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, Charles will, the zoning official will, but yes, we will see it before it comes in.
Okay, you'll coordinate
Yes.
with him.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, Tom?
Just to dot the i's and so forth, with regards to the condition that has been proposed to add to the approval, or should we not also require that the applicant will provide confirmation of the specific type of liquor permit that is approved by the state upon state's approval, and add that to their application when available?
We can certainly do, we will have a copy, so we will have a copy that we sign and give back to them, so we will have that copy, but we will include that for the commission in the file. So staff can provide confirmation of the type when they submit it.
Sounds then like we don't need to specifically add that into our approval.
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
Any other comments? If not, we have a motion pending. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Application is approved. Good luck.
So much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so 3.3 has been withdrawn because they are applying for wetlands review, and that's going to come back at another meeting, correct?
Correct. They've already resubmitted and is currently scheduled to be back on the agenda for May 20th. However, the Wetlands Commission doesn't meet until the day after that. So, but I believe the applicant does want to move forward. There's a lot to be discussed with the application, so I think they want to get in front of the commission and at least start the process while concurrently going through wetlands.
Okay, and just so, given that wetlands won't be acting on their application until after our May 20th meeting, we are not able to act on the application on May 20th. We have to wait until wetlands does.
True, or could we act and say
By
pending
statute,
approvals?
by statute, we need the advice of the Wetlands Commission in hand, which is essentially their action on the application. It's a state requirement. Whenever there's a wetlands component to a zoning application or a subdivision application. But, all right, so that's off. And is 4.1 here yet?
Yes, yes, we do. We have a representative for what I call 530 Silas Dean Highway. Richard, correct? Case. Richard, yeah, yes. Would you like the presentation or not? We do have a presentation. We can show the site.
It's up to, I think it might be explanatory to the commission. They saw the plan.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, James.
If, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to introduce this one.
Yep.
So while we're getting set up, this property came to my attention. There's a retaining wall that borders another property. The retaining wall has started to collapse. The applicant came in and wanted to reconstruct the retaining wall and replace it with a landscaped berm. There's a section in the regulations that allows for minor site plan modifications when located in the rear of a commercial property, which this location is. And so it met those requirements. I reviewed it, the town engineer reviewed it, the fire marshal reviewed it. It was my intention of handling this, what I'll call administratively, not coming to the commission. However, when the construction of the berm was complete, they had to restripe the parking lot, which called attention to parking spaces. And through staff comments, we suggested they remove several parking spaces to accommodate vehicle internal circulation, and the fire marshal also agreed that it would be good for emergency access to remove those spaces. And so while staff could administratively approve all the other changes to the site plan, we could not approve the parking reduction because it will result in a less than required parking amount. And therefore, that triggered the need to come before the commission. So I have been working with the applicant. Staff has been working with the applicant's engineers quite a bit over the last couple of years. They did go before the Inland Wetlands Commission. They got approval. And so the action here tonight before you would be to approve after you hear more details, but to approve the site plan modification.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, Attorney Case.
Mr. Elder stole some of my thunder. Richard Case, attorney from Avon, Connecticut. Yes, this started quite some time ago when the wall, which is a retaining wall between 512 and 530, was failing. Actually, a complaint was filed by the owner of 512 with Charles Morrison, which initiated all this process. We hired BGI to determine whose wall it was. We also hired Stam Construction to determine the status of that wall, and he determined that the wall was failing. And there was really no purpose in rebuilding it because of the way that the reason that the wall had failed is because unfortunately the plows on 512 had been hitting it for the last 15 or 20 years and it had deteriorated significantly. So as a result of that, the process started and Stam Construction, can you hear me all right, by the way? Stam Construction determined for us that the wall should come down because it would, the same situation if rebuilt it would start. They redesigned so that there's now a grading, and I don't need to go through that because the plan is explanatory of how this will work. Initially, that resulted in looking at, there's currently 95 parking places. That the plan that we initially filed would have shown 97 as a result of even interestingly, although we were losing some of the spaces along where the wall was, by the restriping and reconfiguration, we were at 97. However, the engineering department and the fire marshal indicated that they wanted areas of walk-through, drive-through, within the confines of the parking area, as a result of which we have lost 12, which will now bring us down to 85 parking places. I can tell you, and Mr. Elder can confirm this, that in the use of the parking lot, the northern one half of the parking lot, which is perhaps 40 or 45 spaces, is never used. It is this company has owned this property for over almost 25 years. It's never used. Most of the parking is along Beaver Road, and then the parking place is immediately across from the office store. The office store is underneath. There is underneath parking, and there was some question about the fact of two of those parking places because there was a concrete pillar behind them, and the fire marshal indicated that engineer, that he did not want to count those either. So as a result, as Mr. Elder has adequately said, we're down to 85, and we need the commission to approve that. We will be starting the construction as soon as this commission hopefully approves of this plan.
I'm just going to advance the slide so they can see. You can.
Okay.
So this is the existing condition.
Thanks, Dave.
Sure. And so this, if you can see my cursor, can you see my hand moving?
Yes.
So this is the berm, and this was the plan that included the restriping. This would have achieved 97 spaces, so 2 spaces more than what exists today. And actually, I think, is that right? Let me just see. Oh, this is the grading plan. Oh, I'm sorry. This actually reflects the. Sorry, I don't think you guys have it in your packet. So this reflects what is going to occur. So what this slide shows the berm and the 90. I'm sorry, the resulting
85.
The 85 spaces. In your packet, you have a marked up version that shows. Yes. Thank you, Chris. I think that's on page.
It's like the next slide, probably.
He doesn't have that. These are his site plans, but it is in the packet. So this shows the suggested spaces removed. You know what page that is on your packet? Can you see?
No, it doesn't tell me this.
You'll see about 8. Here we go. You found it. Peter
8
found
spaces
it.
right
Yes,
here.
those spaces with the X. Those would allow, removing those spaces would allow for emergency vehicles and internal circulation. And so it was agreed upon by all staff and the fire marshal that we should remove those spaces, which I agreed with. And this building is right across the street from Town Hall, so I have made it a practice of looking across to see how utilized the lot is, and it is always mostly vacant, which makes me wonder if how the vacancy of the building is going, but the parking lot seems pretty available. Hopefully the inside is bustling.
Well, I've been involved with the company for these 25 years, and this is their office for the owners. It's called Harvest Investments, and there's never been a use of that parking lot on the north side, never. And I obviously go there quite often.
Peter?
The reason it was 97 is because of our parking regulations and specific use of the building. Why did we have so many to start with?
You know, so the parking requirement based on the use would actually be 109. And so by zoning, there would be 109. 95 existed pre-construction, 97 were proposed, and town staff is recommending a reduction down to 85. But it does seem to work. I would have concerns if I thought that, if I looked out and saw that the park, or if we had information that showed the parking was heavily utilized, but it's not. There's plenty of parking, so I don't. The only concern that I would have, and it's not a concern, I don't think it's relevant to tonight, but if that building changes uses, we might need to look again. But right now, it seems like the parking that they have is more than adequate for the use of the building. But how it went from 109 originally, Peter, down to the 95, I don't know.
How many square feet roughly is the building?
Roughly 27,000, I think, square feet in the building.
What's the parking requirement? Is it 1 per 250 square feet or something like that?
I was going by you can't see it on the site plan, but it's too small. The 1 space for 250 square feet of gross floor area.
Okay. That's where you get to the 109.
Yep, okay. Any other questions, Dave?
My comment they've been doing this for 25 years. We're not going to tell them to take a part of the building down, right? Right, for more spaces. I'm not sure if there's an option. So to me, it's fine. Yeah.
It sounds
I
like,
didn't quite hear the question.
No, it's not really a question. You've been doing this for 25 years in the building. There's no option here other than taking part of the building down. We're not going to do that. So
Or reconstructing the wall, not going through all of this.
Right, yeah, we're
But
not-
that's a wrong choice.
that's the wrong choice. Yeah, what you're doing is right.
and it
And just
seems,
leave it as it is with the wall replaced. But what initiated all of this is that rebuilding the wall
Right, that is
is a very poor result.
and it seems like it's improving a safety condition that hasn't been ideal for a long time in the back
Correct.
there. So, okay. Anybody else have questions of the applicant?
My only thinking here is, I mean, most office spaces are kind of going to more of a hybrid model anyway. So do we really need that original parking requirement? I think that might be coming up in general next week. But this is the business that's been there for 25 years. What's the business that comes next? And the
Actually,
use that comes next?
More
Okay.
than that, it was my client bought it. It was an existing office building. So this, was the result, the use of the parking lot has been for quite some time.
Quick, was it your client that added the additional floor to the building?
Yes, in sometime in the early 2000s.
Yeah, because he bought it from Ed Pier.
Correct.
Any other questions, commission members? Attorney Case, do you have anything further you'd like to say?
No.
Okay.
I'll answer any questions that any commissioner may want to ask.
Dave, you have anything further?
I do not.
All right, well, if there are no further questions, it's not a public hearing, it's a regular agenda item, so someone could make a motion on the application at this point without,
A motion to approve this application as presented, allowing them to put in the berm and reduce the parking consistent with what town staff has recommended.
okay. And again, just to be clear, town staff's recommendation is based on improving the safety, the flow, the emergency vehicle access.
Correct.
Okay. Yes.
So this is under other business, it's not a public hearing, was it
Yes.
public noticed? Or did
I
it?
think it just appears as a regular agenda item on our agenda, which is posted in advance of the meeting in the front of, in the hallway out here, and I think also on the website, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, correct. It followed the required public notice as a regular agenda item. I know it's unusual because most of the things we see are public hearings, but this, site plans don't require public
Okay,
hearings,
that's
so
what I
it's,
wanted to-
yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? If not, motion to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Application is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now we have the agenda item that we added at the beginning of the meeting.
Yes, they're gonna, I don't think I need that. What?
Okay.
All right. Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Derek Greger. I'm the town engineer. I'm here tonight with Bill Anderson, who's the project manager from VHB. Present a project we've been working on for a while here in town. We've gotten state funding to construct a trail. It'll be an off-road, 10-foot wide paved multi-use trail that will extend from where DOT finished their Putnam Bridge Trail recently, drops down onto Great Meadow Road. So it'll run along Great Meadow Road and Marsh Street and connect into Main Street. As was mentioned earlier, this is a project, it was originally approved in 2 phases by the state, but just given timing of the funding and staff availability to get the project moving, we combined them into one project. So both phases are being designed together, they'll be constructed together, And this is a precursor to some additional trail improvements we're anticipating that we already have state funding for that will extend the trail further north along Main Street to the Cove. That hasn't started design yet, so we'll be back for that. But we're here tonight to present and give you some information on what this trail is at this point. We're at a semi-final design stage and just solicit feedback and your thoughts on the project. So I'm going to turn it over to Bill, and he'll go through the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Derek. My name is Bill Anderson. I work as a project manager for VHB. Our office is 100 Great Meadow Road, so just 5 minutes from here, somewhere there. So tonight I'll go through a brief presentation and look forward to taking your question or continue discussion at the end of the presentation. So as to the project limits, Derek basically covered the limits. The project length is approximately 4,800 feet, beginning at Main Street and ending at the existing Putnam Bridge Trail. The project is funded by a state grant, which is the Local Transportation Capital Improvement Program, otherwise known as LOTCIP. It's administered by CROG. Total funding received to date for both phases is approximately $2.9 million. And as Derek mentioned, there are 2 separate applications. Once we receive funding for both, the DOT and CROG agree that we should design and construct it as one project. This shows just an overview of the entire project. It's Marsh Street. It makes its way across Broad Street, running around Marsh Street, and then heading over to Great Meadow Road, ending at the existing trail at the Putnam Bridge. So for the proposed improvements, we are looking to install a 10-foot wide multi-use trail / shared use path. Wherever the trail crosses any roadway, we'll be providing accessible curb ramps. We are also going to be installing a mid-black crossing along Marsh Street with a speed table or a raised crosswalk. We'll be installing curbing throughout, concrete curbing throughout the project. Also installing a split rail fence for the majority of the project. Metal beam rail will be installed, replacing metal beam rail along Great Meadow Road, and installing decorative lighting throughout the entire length of the project. Where the trail is, the driveways are being impacted by the trail, we'll be reconstructing driveway aprons. We'll also be making minor drainage modifications throughout the project. We're also going to be doing some intersection improvements at the Broad Street intersection, removing the existing island and improving the turn radius for vehicles. We'll be adding pavement markings throughout the project areas. And just want to note that within the historic district section, we'll be removing 2 trees along Marsh Street. I'll discuss that further later on. So as for the plan layout, just for orientation purposes, we're going to be starting to the west of the project at the Main Street intersection. The yellow shows the trail section, and then the kind of hatch portion here shows where we're reconstructing driveways. Those dots shown here along the trail are where we'll be restoring the grass or turf along the trail. As I noted here, we'll be adding a raised crosswalk just to the east of the the western entrance to the cemetery. So as we work our way from Main Street, heading east there, again, just showing the trail layout, the trail is separated from the roadway. This area will be resetting some slate brick walks, installing lighting. Those small dots here show lighting. The lighting will be spaced approximately 85 feet on center.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
So is this going to remove the sidewalk that's there?
Yes, currently as shown, yes, we'll be replacing the sidewalk with the trail.
And is this trail going to allow bikes on there?
Yes, both bikes and pedestrians, correct.
10 feet the whole way, right?
Correct.
What's the surface material?
Bituminous.
Is that all within existing town right-of-way?
A portion, most of it is. There's Well, we have a portion that's within town, but once we get around to Great Meadow Road section, we're going to be in the DOT, there's some DOT right away
Okay, but,
encroachment. And we have already performed the necessary coordination and received an encroachment permit approval from the
okay.
department.
But on Marsh Street, you're not crossing the private property lines at all? They're
Just a portion will be on the physical facility. I'll get to that and show you that section in a sec. So this is going to continue way east. I'll get, when I get to that portion, I'll point it out where we're encroaching onto the physical facility property.
Quick question before we get out of this residential section right there.
Yes.
Because the rest, I don't really, it's not really residential, if you will. Who maintains this 10-foot right-of-way, snow plowing, fixing the asphalt and all that? Who's responsible for that now? The homeowner as they currently are, or the? Oh, the town's going to do that? Okay.
All right, so we're, again, I mentioned what's shown in red here, which is 2 trees that we're going to be removing as part of this project. The trees are in conflict with the proposed trail layout, and there's actually overgrown into the existing utility lines above. So the plan is to remove those trees, 2 trees in this area. So again, the trail crosses at Broad Street here. Again, we're removing an existing island right in here and improving the radius here just for right turn purposes to avoid vehicle encroaching into the oncoming traffic when they make the right turn onto Marsh Street here.
By the way, I just want to comment, thank you for that. I live right around the corner, and that's one of the worst turns I have to make in Weathersfield. So I'm glad you're doing that.
Wasn't that recently put in?
Yeah, past few years.
Yeah, when we reconstructed Broad Street and did some paving, we did some temporary improvements to that intersection, which with the intent that this project was going to fix that.
Okay.
So this project will make it more of a traditional T intersection, take out that slip lane that you
Yeah, that's
have with the island in the middle. So it should shorten the crossing for the trail users and also provide, better slow traffic down and better turning movements.
coming out of Broad Street onto Marsh, will it have 2 lanes, one for right turners and one for left, or just the single lane?
Single lane.
Okay.
Good.
So we're also making connections to the existing sidewalk on both sides of Broad Street, shown here.
Was it just go up to the butt off Williams house? Like that on Broad Street, that improvement? It just, I couldn't tell in the print. Does it just only extend up to the very first houses? Yes. On Broad?
Yes.
Got it.
Goes up about 100 feet. It'll tie.
Got it. No, I got
Tie
it.
into the new paved area that we did for Broad Street.
Got it.
So it's a very short distance, yeah.
Got it.
All right, so the trail continues across the physical facilities property here. And with us trying to avoid removing the existing trees, a portion of the trail would end up on the physical facilities property. So this line that I'm running my mouse across here, that's the right-of-way line. So you can see the trail is behind the right-of-way line on the physical property here. So the trail then works its way across that existing pump station driveway. And then we're crossing this major ditch that's pretty easy to see out there if you drive past this area. We're going to be adding a 40-inch pipe culvert across that trail. The railing will begin just about at this location here on this side of the road, of the trail. And then on this side, it begins at somewhere at this location. And on this side, it's going to run for a significant distance of the trail, pretty much most of the trail, especially on Marsh Street.
Is that elevated there, where that culvert is?
I'm sorry, Stuart?
It's elevated?
Yes.
Okay.
It's elevated. It's about 7 to 8 feet.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Also in that location. All right, so we continue just trying to work our way through some of those existing trees, trying to minimize any tree removal along Marsh Street. Certainly want to maintain those mature trees where possible. And we are now at the I-91 on-ramp. So we're crossing here with ADA ramps at these crossing locations here. So just want to note that in this area, we're going to be narrowing Great Meadow Road to provide enough width for the trail to be placed in this area. The trail will be separated from the road by approximately 3 feet from the face of curb in this area. It will make its way onto the I-91 overpass bridge and then crossing at the Route 3 off-ramp in this area here. And then we're making our way around to Great Meadow Road where it will continue on this side of the road. We're also going to be slightly narrowing Great Meadow Road, doing some reconfiguration again, just trying to fit the trail within, the cross section. We do have this pond on the side, pretty tight, steep slope on the side over here. So just doing our best to fit it within, fit the trail within the cross section with some modification to the existing roadway. So we're going to have pretty narrow lanes in this area. We all know that the traffic on this section is pretty light, so not too much concern about traffic in conflict with trail users along this section, especially because...
One question about that one, and just thinking about people who are used to coming off there, coming into the district that way, or going over to the restaurant or anything. I mean, for folks getting off the highway over there, what's the signage going to look like for bikes or pedestrians? Because if a bike is moving pretty quickly through that area and someone comes off the off ramp a little too close, is there any plan for like a lighted signage or anything like that?
Or will the bikes have to stop before?
Yeah, is there like a stop sign for put a stop sign for?
Well, the bike will be on a curb section. So as you're making your way from Morris Street around, you're separated from the road with a curb and the buffer. So you can just keep riding. There's no stop for you as you're, especially if you're crossing the ramps, obviously.
That's what I mean, yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
We'll have stop signs at the ramp. And the good point, you make a good point about the left turn onto 901, so that would be one of concern, I would think, for, people making that left. So I think for that, Derek, we may have to look at some type of maybe just, some signage just making sure that there's no conflict with cyclists crossing the I-91 ramp.
Even just one of those signs that if the lights up, if said there's a bike that crosses a certain point in the pathway, so people know to look.
No, noted. We'll take
So
it.
I've driven my bike there a number of times. With the current configuration, you have those rubber bollards there. So those are all going to go away, right?
Yes, so just estimated that alignment would be replaced with a curb, a 3-foot buffer, and then the trail would be placed in that area.
On the other side, though, not where it currently is, correct?
Yes, it will be on the side, especially on Great Meadow Road, it would be on the side of that pond, across from the restaurant. Right.
Oh, same side as the temporary trail, okay.
So it's a 3-foot buffer, then 10 feet of bituminous?
Correct.
Got it.
So we are also doing some...
If I could just comment.
Yes.
You're right. It is a little dangerous with those cars coming off the ramps.
People don't stop all the way at the
Right.
stop
I mean,
signs.
I've sweated a few times crossing there, so if there's anything you can do to kind of improve that situation, that would be helpful.
I'm also concerned I used to ride my bike in that area a lot when I lived in Old Weathersfield to get down to the meadows, and I'm also concerned with the bicyclists going, just assuming that they have the right of way because it's a crosswalk and they're on a bike trail, so the cars are going to have to stop, and they're not going to be going very slowly. Some of them are going to be going pretty quickly.
Because the bike has the right of way, so there is no yield for the bike or any of that, correct?
Correct.
So if a tractor trailer comes off that highway, fully loaded
He wins.
with gas,
Right where
brakes are a little hot.
there's no protection.
It's called dead right, correct?
Yeah, most other trails I ride on, you don't have those cross conditions like that. Like the Farmington Valley Trail, it's really far away from any traffic, and you can ride safely and fast. Here, it's a concern.
The closest I can think of this is, I think it's what they call the Airline Trail out in Colchester, has a cross near a highway off ramp. That's the only one I can think of that's close by.
Noted. All right, so we,
Is the, just so I can sort of turn those
Yes.
comments into, are there some best practices that the design team could explore for some signage?
yeah, I think we would
Incorporate?
need to look at some advanced signage on the off-ramps, and maybe, especially the Route 3 off-ramp, to your point of those vehicles.
Well, I think even, what I'm also hearing for the cyclists as well, so that they're.
Yeah, so they know.
Yeah, so that they're, even if they legally have the right of way, just to make them aware that whatever the best practices are, to let you know that there are heavy, vehicles coming at highway speeds.
I mean, just myself, you're right next to a major bulk fuel terminal. Not that there's no malice, no intent. It's an accident. You could have differing light conditions there, and the cyclist assumes they have the right of way, but there could be a green light at the bottom of that, and the operator of the vehicle may not just see him. He may have a mechanical problem or just be very lost on both sides of that. Because if you go back, believe it or not, I mean, we had a trailer, I believe, with a nitrogen trailer roll over coming 91 southbound, going straight across to the other ramp, and he rolled over right where that bike ramp is, this path.
I think
Excuse me, liquid hydrant.
my concern more is that right now the cyclists don't have the right of way, so they're being more careful, and moving it into them having the right of way might create that problem. Maybe we make it that the cyclists don't have the right of way through that area. Does that take away from it actually?
Or at least caution, just out of sheer safety. I mean,
Yeah, we could
In-
potentially
in-
look
in the
to add
coup-
maybe
in the
stop
coup-
signs to the trail, at the trail crossings for the cyclists too. Maybe that's an option to look
You
at.
should really check the Farmington Valley Trail. In a couple places where it crosses heavy traffic roads, there's lights for the bicycles to stop. But a bicyclist sees the light, they have to stop and they have to push the button to cross. I think there's 2 of them on that trail like that. So something like that here may be necessary.
Yeah, I would say we could certainly look at signage along the trail and signage coming off the ramp. I mean, this used to be a signalized intersection. It's not anymore. So traffic coming off the ramp does have a stop sign, which might make it a little different than that case. If it was a mid-block crossing, that type of thing is more traditional. I think we can handle, even now, the temporary signs where we cross the intersection at Burbank, we've put up small stop signs on the trail for that reason. Make sure people are aware they got to stop. They can't just shoot across the road. So we could do something similar at the crossing here to make it safer. So that's something we could definitely look at.
I can tell you right now, the bikers don't read the sign on the bridge. Because I've been met by electric bikes, I've been met by 3 or 4 bikes riding across that bridge. It says right there at the beginning of the bridge, unless they remove the sign, all bikes and vehicles should be walked across the ridge.
Yeah, we've been having conversations with DOT about that. The bicycling community has had some questions about like why. In talking with DOT, it wasn't their intent to say everybody has to get off and walk their bikes. The intent was they want them to yield to the pedestrians and be advised that it's a narrow path, and if you have walkers and bikers, it's pretty narrow going over the bridge. So that is something we've been talking with DOT about, see if we can come up with better signage that is clearer as to what it is. But just that particular issue has been discussed in recent months.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked that the bikers still stay on the road, because I've seen bikers drive down the middle of roads in Rocky Hill and Weathersfield like they're normal vehicles.
Well, we can't control that. I mean, we're going to provide, a safe off-road trail. There are certainly a lot of avid bikers in town that are pretty comfortable on the road, so that they may still do that. I think the intent with this segment of the trail and future trail segments is really to try and keep it off-road as much as possible, thinking more of the younger users, families with kids. We really wanted to try and separate it. The original proposal through here were either sidewalks with bikes in the road for a lot of this area, so we have worked really hard to try and get everything off-road as best we can to make
I
it
like
as
the
safe
idea
as
because
possible.
it does give some protection from the cars coming off the highway.
Right. Yeah, we'll definitely look at that.
All right, so just gonna work my way towards the east here. So in section here, they're more of the same. The trail will stay on the side of the roadway. We're gonna have fencing on the back side of the trail. Again, we'll be separated with curb and a small buffer in this area here. replacing some guide rail on the north side of the road here. And we end at the existing trail at the Putnam Bridge. Here we'll have a ramp just for crossing this off ramp if, riders or pedestrians decide to keep going into the meadows through here. Let's see, anything else? Pretty much that's what we have on this one here. Again, so we mentioned that we're going to be installing a speed table on Mars Street, just to the entrance to the entrance to the cemetery here. That speed table will look very similar to what's been installed at the Keeney, what's currently at the Keeney Center. So just want to point it out here.
Yes, I would just, the one at the Keeney Center is frustrating to me because it doesn't have enough rise to prevent people from just going through at speeds way in excess of the speed limit. It doesn't even, bounce the car or do anything.
Yeah, and one of the reasons for that was originally put in per design. After that, I think the following year, we had a lot of complaints with safety in the roadway because the roads, pavement was in poor condition. We had, I think, our closure for Holidays on Main was coming up. So we did a thin, 1-inch overlay just as a temporary measure. We are going to reconstruct all that as part of the next phase of this project. It will include road reconstruction. But in putting in that 1-inch overlay, it just reduced the differential on the height. So
is the one you're talking about now more substantial?
It would have a normal height, yes. That's
how high is normal compared to the?
Yeah, it's 3 to 4. I think we did a 3-inch lift on the one over at Keeney.
Yeah.
So that's something we'll look at and see what's.
And you're going to do that one ultimately as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see you do a couple on Broad Street in the future would be nice.
That's out of scope.
The Speedway?
And
The Broad
yeah,
Street Speedway?
and I guess, just another thing I'll mention, I don't know if it's relevant to what you're doing here, but we've got a lot of unsignalized crosswalks on Main, on Broad, and I've noticed in other municipalities, they have, a light stand, and when the pedestrian gets to the crossing and they push the button, it starts to flash yellow so cars can really see it clearly. The unsignalized ones are kind of nerve-wracking if you're walking because a large percentage of people do not stop in those crosswalks. So just note that if that's relevant to anything you're doing with this project. Okay.
Right. So as you mentioned, just going back to this crosswalk will have, the typical signalized pedestrian signs, advanced warning signs. We moved it to this location for sight distance purposes. This is in a pretty straight section of Mars Street here. So we're relocating from the existing location, which is at that corner at Broad Street, to this location here, just for improved sight distance. As for the tree removals, I did mention 2 trees we're going to be looking to remove. Just take note of the existing sign here, the trees just to west of that sign. And the next tree would be a tree just east of that same sign I mentioned here. Again, it's in conflict with our proposed trail layout, and it also encroaches into the existing utility wires overhead. We do have.
Ask a question about the trees. Sorry, I could have asked Derek this. I did have a chance to look at the plans before this. Is there anywhere within the project limits you can replace those 2 trees?
We are going to be replacing those trees. We actually more than 2. I think we're looking for.
Yeah, we did talk to the tree ward, get some recommendations. So where those trees are coming down, they're growing up into the utility wires now, so they're kind of problematic anyway. Those are going to come down. He suggested a couple of other plantings that won't get so high in the same area, and then we're going to plant 2 more trees on the opposite side of the street on the cemetery side. So we're taking out 2, putting in 4. In addition to that, just based on some other conversations we've had, we're also going to look at if there's any opportunity to do some tree plantings along Great Meadow Road and other areas of the project where some shading would be beneficial. So he's reviewing that for us now to see what he would recommend.
Thank you.
Yeah, anything, I mean, I know with the hump in there, it'll help with some of the speed on the straight section, but, some of those trees do also help with just kind of, I forget what that's called, when you kind of slow traffic down visually.
Yeah, the other thing we didn't mention too is we are, as part of this project, we're going to add shoulder lines to Marsh Street. So that's going to narrow the travel lane a lot more, and that tends to be a passive, traffic calming measure that is helpful. We've been doing that in other areas of town. So it'll be be doing that along the length of Marsh Street with the raised crosswalk, kind of coming in and out of the main downtown area. Hopefully it'll be helpful for slowing some traffic down.
One last question on the trees. Have you talked to the property owners where those trees are yet? Are they aware?
Yeah, they are aware. I actually have a meeting with a couple of them this week just to talk through the plans. I think while I'm up here, well, Bill, you can finish this. Well, there's another slide. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Almost done with that. Yes, again, we have an existing town sign here that we're looking to relocate from that intersection near Broad Street to this location where this existing sign is here. And we'll be taking the sign out to relocate the sign. I think it's more visible as you're heading towards Main Street here. And maybe Derek, I'll just have you just talk to the slide.
Yeah, so getting back to your question about Main Street, going to the HDC in the last few weeks, there's been some discussion about removing the sidewalk along the residential properties in front of, along Main Marsh Street in this area. There were some concerns raised with, maybe we would like to keep the sidewalks and have a separate trail system. As far as maintenance, to answer that question, if the trail does end up staying where it's shown where we showed it on the plan, the property owners will not be responsible for the trail. The town will maintain all the off-road trails that we put in. What we're showing on the screen here is an alternate route that we had pursued a number of years ago. At the top right corner, you see Broad Street and Marsh Street. This would bring the trail, instead of going along Marsh Street, it'd bring it down through the Butoff Williams property and through a portion of the rear of the Herbo Dunlop property, which is owned by the Historical Society, and tie into the back area here. What you see is a planned conceptual reconstruction of the parking lot back there. We are applying for state funding to do that. The thought with that is if we can go, from Broad Street directly into the back of the Keeney, it gets us to a parking area. And then what you see at the dashed line on the left side of the screen was the planned continuation of the trail from the Keeney lot north along Main Street. That'll be part of the next phases of the project. So the real critical thing here is we have to go through a couple properties that are not controlled by the town. The Butoff Williams house is owned by Connecticut Landmarks. We have a meeting scheduled with them this week just to talk through this as an option to see if it's something that they would be interested in entertaining, since there has been some concerns raised with the original proposal. So right now, the stretch really between Broad Street and Main Street is kind of in flux. We're seeing what other options there are. And, depending on how that goes, we may we'll give you an update once we have more information at this point, really, once we have a chance to talk to them and see what they think about it.
Is that road from Kennedy up to Marsh Street there, or is that just a future road? What is that?
That's just trail. That's an alternate trail
Is that
route.
there now?
It's not there. There are some walking trails back there now that are kind of informal. It runs along those to the extent it can. This is an overall plan showing parking lot reconstruction at Lucky Lou's behind the Keeney Center, some paths that the Historical Society wanted to build. So it's kind of a comprehensive plan, and what we're adding, what you see in orange, yellow color up there, is a potential trail alignment that we want to discuss with the property owners and see if they'd be willing to.
And that one you said would eliminate the piece on Marsh Street that you showed us first. Okay.
Sidewalk.
Yes.
Okay. Can I just, while you're there, the 2.8 million in grants that were referred to, does that cover 100% of the cost of the project?
Yeah, the way the LOTSIP program works, it's Local Capital Transportation Improvement Program through DOT. With that program, the town is responsible for all design costs, and the state pays for all construction costs and inspection costs. So that is full construction cost funded by the state.
And does that include the phase that you're not at yet as well in the 2.8 million?
The 2.8 is really just to get to Main Street.
Okay.
We did apply for two other Phase 1 and Phase 2 applications along Main Street.
Yep.
Those are about $4 million each. We're just finalizing the commitment to fund from DOT on Phase 2. We already have Phase 1. So we're planning to start up design on that soon. Right now, the goal is to try and get this out to construction and have it completed as soon as we can while we're working on design for the next phase of the project.
What's your target for construction on this phase?
Realistically, it depends how quickly the permitting goes, but we would like to get it out to bid in the next couple months and start construction on it at least this year. If we could finish it this year, that would be great. Otherwise, we'll try to get as much done as we can this year and finish in the spring.
And are you in front of HDC right now on this?
Yeah, we've met with them a couple different times to talk about the project, get some feedback. Some things that were brought up to give you a heads up is maybe looking at different trail surface materials once we get into the more congested areas. So either once we get past, coming from the bridge, once we get past Physical Services driveway, or maybe at Broad Street, doing a different color on the trail. There was some talk about maybe doing a textured type of asphalt. The problem with the textured is this trail is going to cross a lot of utility services and other things, and over time, they're going to be repairs. It's going to have to be cut and repaired. And if we do a texture type surface, it's going to be very hard to match that when we get to that point. So at this point, we're leaning, if we do something, it'd probably be more just a standard color. That's still open for discussion. Maybe something, a reddish color, we're thinking, that might match the brick walks kind of in that area. So the idea that they had brought up was that it looks a little different when you're coming into Old Weathersfield, the downtown area. It looks different than the rest of the trail systems you might see around. So that treatment will be part of the next phases of the project as well for some distance along Main Street, whether that goes to Hart Street or all the way up to the Cove is open for discussion.
Did you say go out to bid within 2 months or so? Was that?
We'd like to get this out to bid because we are pretty far along right now in the design process. We're coming now to the various commissions to get your feedback and let you know about the project. We're still making changes, and this is one of the big ones that may be made, but we wanted to come here and discuss
Dave, I guess I'll just ask a question. I don't know if we've had anything comparable to this project, but would this require any type of site plan review? Or is that something, if you looked into that, or I don't know if there's been other town projects that might be relevant?
No, I haven't. It's a good question, and today I was talking to Derek, and it's, so two things. One, there is this section of the statute 8-24 that talks about before a municipality sells land, abandons land, buys land, adopts a street, abandons the street, they come for an 8-24. In this case, the majority of the work is within the existing right-of-way. But it's significant, right? It's a significant new mode of transportation. So in that case, it could be considered an 8-24. I generally think if the question has to be asked, should we have an 8-24 or shouldn't we? I don't see the downside of doing an 8-24. So in my mind, I was thinking, when we start talking about this taken as a whole, I think that the project could be considered as an 8-24 worthy action. But to answer your question, the only part that I see a site plan approval is we do own the Keeney Center, and that there is an existing parking lot there. And I think, would we be acquiring land to accommodate the parking, or is that basketball court already our land?
Most of that parking lot you see is on town property. It does extend a little bit onto the Historical Society, so I don't think we'd be taking land. It'd probably be easements or rights of access we'd be getting from the property owners.
And so of everything I see, thank you for answering that. The only thing I would see of triggering the site plan would be the additional parking. But again, there's no use change to the Keeney. It's additional parking. I would want to check.
Okay.
So I could have just started with that. But
Where's the additional parking that you're talking about?
if you see, I'll let Derek sort of drive there. But
So, I mean, the parking that we're showing here, this is what you see in the gray through this area back here is behind the Keeney.
Right.
That's an expanded parking lot from what's out there now. That is something we don't have funding for at this time, but it is something we're seeking funding for actively.
How big is the current one now, Derek? How far does it go?
I can't really zoom in here, but you see this rectangle here with black?
Yeah.
That's the basketball
okay,
court.
I got it.
So it stops short of that right now.
How many spaces would this plan add?
Yeah, so this adds about 40 spaces overall if you look at behind the Keeney and near Lucky Lou's.
Basically, it's the whole box to the east side, correct? Is what you're adding?
Yes, that's
The entire box,
yes,
not just the black
that's
square.
being added. There's some parking that we're showing conceptually over at Lucky Lou's. You see, there is some kind of a drive connection between the two that is still being discussed with the Historical Society. That hasn't been decided. It would be the advantageous part of having that connection would be when we close Main Street. Because right now, when we close Main Street, we lose all this parking back here. We can't use it because we can't get to it. Even if it's even if it happened to be just during town events, it would be great to have an access off of Marsh Street that would allow us to use that during these events when Main Street is closed. So that's part of the discussion we're going to have this week when we meet with representatives from them.
If you go through the first proposal, if that's what you kind of hone in on, is the parking also going to be changed or not? Is this parking tied to the second proposal only, or does it still apply in the first proposal when you're going along Marsh Street?
It would still apply. It's a completely separate project. We just showed the trail on it to look at a future condition.
Okay, I
If we
got it.
build this trail now, we would just make it work for what's there now with the plan to build this at a future date when we get funding. Yep.
The few houses on Marsh Street that you're going to go over their front lawns, have you got approval for them, or do you have to?
We've reached out to them they have seen and they are aware of the plan. The only approval we really need from them is the right of entry permit, because we do have to grade back onto their properties a little bit. We do have to reconstruct some of their driveways.
Isn't it their property, or is it all towns?
The trail is, the back of the trail is at the back of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So it's all in the town property.
Okay.
It's only a temporary impact during construction, and we have reached out to them seeking approval to do that during construction, which is typical for any project. But the permanent improvement will all be on town
But
property.
the sidewalk on that side goes away. It's
With the original proposal that we showed, it would go away. It'd be replaced with the trail.
How about lighting? There'll be no lighting in the front of their yards?
I think there might be a couple street lights out there now, but we're proposing decorative lighting along the whole trail. The lighting that would be along the trail is what you see in front of the Keeney Center. The new light that we put up recently at the crosswalk, that would be the type of pole and the type of fixture we'll be installing.
Do they know that? People on Marsh Street?
They are aware of it in the sense that we've reached out to them. I do have a meeting this week on site with some of them to talk about that.
The only reason I say it's probably not that big a deal, but if I was living there and all of a sudden they're putting in big lights across my I had a nice quiet front lawn with darkness, and all of a sudden I got lights 24 hours a day in the front. I don't know.
Well, that was the question I had with this trail. It's going behind a historic site. Will it have like solar motion, path lights? So that when people try to, I'm not saying they're gonna walk at night, but since it's walking behind historical property, would you wanna have like solar motion lights, pathway lights, so at least it lights it so people know they're being